All right, it is 6:30. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Days.
Here.
Councilmember Dunaway.
Present.
Councilmember Fitch.
Here.
Councilmember Gray.
Present.
Councilmember Clancy.
Here.
Councilmember Tracus.
Present.
Councilmember Harder. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval of the journal of the meeting of September 1st, 2020?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. September 1st, 2020 journal is approved. We have no bid openings this evening, so we will move on to communications.
Madam Chair, we have no tax compromises this evening, so we will move to zoning matters. Under zoning matters, item number 1, 4th District.
Receive and file.
So ordered.
Item number 2, 4th District.
Receive and file.
So ordered.
Item number 3, 6th District.
Receive and file, please.
So ordered.
Item number 4, 6th District.
Sorry, receive and file.
That's okay.
So ordered.
And item number 5, 6th District.
Receive and file as well, please.
So ordered.
We have no road and bridge matters this evening, so we'll move to other communications. Under other communications, item number 1.
Receive and file, and that will be the order.
Item number 2.
Receive, file, and the county councilor be directed to prepare the appropriate legislation, and that will be the order.
Item number 3.
Receive, file, and the appropriation transfer be approved as requested.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 4.
Receive, file, and the appropriation transfer be approved as requested.
Second. Gray.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 5.
Receive and file, and that will be the order.
Item number 6, 5th District.
Receive, file, and the county councilor be directed to prepare the appropriate legislation. Same motion for item number 7, and that will be the order.
Item number 8.
Receive and file, and that will be the order.
Item number 9.
Receive, file, and the appropriation transfer be approved as requested.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 10, 5th and 4th Districts.
Receive, file, and the county councilor be directed to prepare the appropriate legislation, and that will be the order.
Item number 11, 7th District.
Receive, file, and refer to the county councilor, the Department of Planning, the Department of Revenue, and the Assessor's Office, and the Board of Election Commissioners.
So ordered.
Item number 12.
Receive, file, and the county councilor be directed to prepare the appropriate legislation. Same motion through item number 14, and that will be the order.
Item number 15, 2nd and 4th Districts.
Receive, file, and the county councilor be directed to prepare the appropriate legislation.
So ordered.
Item number 16.
Receive, file, hold on the order of business, and refer to the council as a committee of the whole, and that will be the order.
Item number 17.
Receive, file, hold on the order of business, and refer to the council as a committee of the whole, and that will be the order. We have no add-ons this evening, so we will proceed with the report of the county executive.
Thank you, Lisa, and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend. While the weekend is often thought of as the end of summer, more importantly, Monday was the federal Labor Day holiday. Time to honor those who have fought and continue to fight for fair wages, fair working conditions, and opportunities for all in the workplace. Early in my tenure as county executive, I began meeting with county employees who were rightfully jolted by the controversies that sent my predecessor to prison. They were concerned about the future of county government, how the welfare of employees had been neglected for years. Out of those discussions, along with recommendations from a Women in the Workplace working group I convened, we have made a series of changes to ensure that St. Louis County government is a better place to work. I implemented the county's first paid parental and caregiver leave policy. This act provides 2 weeks of paid time off to all employees to care for a new child or a sick family member. My administration took steps to improve pay for low-wage St. Louis County employees. This process will increase wages for these workers by implementing a new minimum wage for all non-seasonal full-time employees and contracted employees. The new minimum wage rate is scheduled to reach $15 an hour by 2022, with incremental changes each year until then. My first executive order banned inquiries and reliance on salary history when it comes to setting pay rates for newly hired employees. It's critical that everyone who seeks employment with the county should have the opportunity to compete for a job at a fair and equitable rate of pay regardless of sex, gender, or race. The hard work from our Women in the Workplace working group led to St. Louis County being named one of 17 area employers honored for our policies and outcomes around gender, equity, and diversity. The Women's Foundation of Greater St. Louis scored the county on 27 questions related to leadership, compensation, flexible work policies, and retention and recruitment. The baseline criteria for consideration, including a starting wage above the state minimum of $8.60 an hour, women in at least 27% of top leadership positions, and at least 6 policies that promote a flexible work environment such as paid sick leave. We will continue to build on this recognition in making St. Louis County one of the region's best places to work. I asked the council to enact an ordinance requiring contractors to pay a prevailing wage on projects where St. Louis County extends tax incentives. Our workforce deserves to earn competitive wages for the work. Requiring contractors to pay a prevailing wage will prevent companies from lowballing proposals at the expense of their workers. I signed an executive order establishing a prevailing wage enforcement coordinator. This role is to ensure that the county's prevailing wage ordinance is executed and enforced. Jansen Thomas is the prevailing wage enforcement coordinator and will conduct systematic reviews to ensure compliance and consistency. My administration obtained almost $5 million in additional funding for local workforce development programs aimed at providing training services to youth, adults, and dislocated workers to increase meaningful employment. The Department of Human Services provides these services in partnership with the Family and Workforce Centers of America, the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, and the International Institute of Metropolitan St. Louis. We also obtained funds for the Skill Up project, which is an important part of comprehensive workforce development, serving the needs of Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program recipients. We all know that this pandemic has created an economic crisis on top of a public health and humanitarian crisis. We are getting small business loans out into the community, and we have an economic rescue team headed by Rick Stevens, president of Christian Hospital. The team is working in 4 areas: minority and immigrant-owned businesses, small business and industry, community development, and workforce development. We are also working with our municipalities to provide relief for them during this pandemic and hope to have that process worked out very soon. That's all for now. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Dr. Page. We will now proceed with the report of special committees.
Madam Chair, our first report this evening is from the Justice, Health, and Welfare Committee meeting held on September 1st, 2020.
Receive, file, and the report dated September 1st, 2020 be adopted as submitted.
Second, days.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Our second report this evening is from the Committee of the Whole meeting on September 1st, 2020.
Receive, file, and the report dated September 1st, 2020 be adopted as submitted.
Second, Gray.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I also believe Councilwoman Dunaway has an update from the Special Committee for Oversight of COVID-19 Funding and Expenditures.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. In our meeting this morning, we were reminded that Missouri's first case of COVID-19 was 6 months ago yesterday here in St. Louis County. Since then, we've had over 20,000 positive cases and we've lost 760 lives in the county. As we enter our 7th month in the pandemic, and I'd really like to get my kids back in school, I will continue to ask everyone to wash your hands, maintain social distancing, and please wear a mask. In our public health update this morning, we learned that 24 agencies and 26 projects have been awarded community and mental health grants, that the procurement and distribution of PPE, including finding smaller masks for children, continues to be a priority, along with education about masking and social distancing and the accessibility and turnaround time of testing. To that end, St. Louis County is expanding our own lab capabilities in order to perform more COVID testing, as well as seeking opportunities to lab partner with other jurisdictions who may have additional capacity for testing. When asked about the possibility of a November vaccine, we were advised that the state will most likely lead the charge and that the delivery of a vaccine will be a collaborative process across federal, state, and local agencies, and that demand will probably outweigh supply for quite some time. In the humanitarian update, we learned that 50% of the funds have gone out for housing stabilization, seniors and homebound services, social and emotional well-being of children, childcare, domestic violence grants, and the Digital Equity Initiative, much of which is running through the St. Louis County Library. In economic rescue, local businesses are still being surveyed to determine how best to support our local rescue, and the economic rescue team is planning to provide final results and recommendations the week of September 21st. The Small Business Relief Program is continuing to fund small business grants. A total of 1,147 grants have been approved, totaling just under $13 million, with 36% of applications still pending. The county CARES team covered some of the lessons they've learned in administering a grant program of this magnitude, which in turn should offer a smoother funding road when it comes to supporting our municipalities, toward which we are inching closer. Our budget does still have $47 million set aside for our municipalities, and the CARES team is looking at a grant program whereby a per capita plus model is used to repay eligible COVID-related expenses incurred by our municipalities. More details to come in our next meeting, either next Tuesday or again in 2 weeks at 10 a.m. by WebEx. We're still figuring that one out. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for this week.
Thank you. All right, we will move on with our public forum portion of our meeting tonight. As I like to remind everyone week to week, this forum is a source of pride for all of us here in the St. Louis County Council, and it can also serve as a positive example to other policymaking bodies throughout our region. We encourage everyone who participates in this forum to speak with tolerance and respect towards the council, towards other leaders in county government, and towards each other. To remind everyone of the rules, only comments sent to councilcomments@stlouisco.com on the day in which the meeting is being held, at least 1 hour prior to the meeting is set to start, will be recorded into the public record. The email must contain the commenter's name. The email must be 400 words or less, which is the equivalent of 3 minutes of verbal communication, which is what we would allow if we were meeting in person in the council chambers. The administrative director or a designee will read your comment out loud during the meeting, and it will be recorded into the journal. So with that, please call the first speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we have 26 written public comments. The first one comes from Mary Mays, Teresa Oswald, and Jennifer Dunlap. This request is for you to end the county-wide mandate to wear masks, to lift capacity limits, and end social distancing orders. We, as rational, logical, adult citizens, can decide for ourselves appropriate actions to take to keep ourselves and our community healthy. This virus has caused the death of 0.07% of people in our county. While each person lost is a tragedy, this number simply does not justify the type of mandates in place. We do not need mandates restricting our freedoms when our hospitals are not overrun and we have flattened the curve as you originally asked. Lift all mandates today and allow St. Louis County to heal from the hardships the mandates have caused. From Shannon McCullough. I am done asking nicely. I am done being polite. You must open the schools. The damage that is being done to our children socially, emotionally, and academically is going to take years to undo. And to the special needs children, you are destroying years of work that has helped these children to adapt and succeed in spite of their challenges. I dropped off something at one of my closest friends' house last night. When I walked inside her home, her teenage autistic daughter was in the middle of one of her episodes. The screaming was audible everywhere in their home. The looks on my friends' and her husband's faces and their younger sons said it all. The last 6 months have been a nightmare for families with special needs children. Their routine has been disrupted. There is no access to PTs or OTs. Video and Zoom calls do not count and do absolutely nothing for children, families in this situation. 12 years ago, my husband and I received a phone call when my sister-in-law in another state reached a breaking point after caring for her 4-year-old autistic son and his typical twin sister 24/7 and required psychiatric intervention. My sister-in-law was mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted and just needed some help. Fortunately, my now 16-year-old nephew is mainstreamed into a public school, and all of the interventions that he has received over the years have helped him to be able to control his emotions a bit better than some on the spectrum. My friends are at a breaking point, and they have resources to be able to get at least some help for their child in spite of your pulling the rug out from beneath them in regards to school and PTs and OTs. I can't imagine what special needs families are going through that don't have these resources. Dr. Page, put on your doctor hat for a minute. You must allow at least the special needs kids to go back to school. I implore you to act before something terrible happens to one of these children or a family member. From Emily Hayes, please lift all mandates. No mask mandates, no more phases for sports. Let all children participate in volunteer sports if they want. No building capacity limits. Let places of businesses go back to full capacity. No more bullying school superintendents. Announce that CDC has been saying for months that all schools should be open. Special needs children especially need to be having in-person learning. Our children who are recommended to only have a couple of hours of screen time per day by pediatric specialists are now glued to screens for hours a day. This is causing behavioral issues, depression, and will lead to more childhood obesity. Open our schools up. Open our businesses up. You are destroying St. Louis County. Cancel recommendation to authorize amendment to a contract originally authorized by ordinance number 27,592 for outside counsel with Lewis Rice LLC. What is this? We need an answer. Explain. The proposed amendment to the St. Louis County Charter on the election ballot of November 2020, as indicated, stating the proposed amendment to Article 2 will create and add a new section, Section 2.300, titled Council Attorney, and further stating the proposed amendment shall create the positions of 1 Assistant Council Attorney and 1 Administrative Clerk Staff Member. OC-10. Why are we receiving more grant money for contract tracers? $71,150 in grant funds from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services to support the Department of Public Health's epidemiology and the laboratory capacity CARES project, stating the grant will commence upon contract execution and continue through March 31st, 2022. Is all the money we receive from the CARES Act spent? Where is the accountability? From Tabby Backus. This letter stands as a request for you to end the countywide mask mandate as well as the social distancing orders and capacity limits. With the current death rate, the mandates are no longer necessary. It's time to give freedom back to the residents of St. Louis County. We have successfully flattened the curve as you asked. Now we politely ask you to flatten the mandate. From Heather Brown. For 6+ months now, the St. Louis County Council, and particularly Sam Page as the sole arbiter of emergency funds, have put themselves and their special interest above protecting the citizens of St. Louis County. Where did the CARES Act money go? Where is the accountability for the CARES Act funds? Why is this supposed emergency still an emergency with no evidence to support it? It's awfully suspicious that amid increasing pressure for accountability, more than 70 old unaccounted for COVID deaths materialized from the health department to bolster fear. Nefarious deeds always come to light. Ask the other county council officials before you who have had to answer criminally for their actions. Let me remind you that you all, except Sam Page, who waltzed into his lush position, are elected officials who are public servants elected to represent the St. Louis County people. It is not your responsibility, nor is it constitutional, to impose restrictions on businesses or people, particularly when literally no data supports the fear-mongering and actions of this council. And because this pandemic is done, hold yourselves accountable as you should have this whole time. Bring back in-person county council meetings so you all can answer directly to your constituents about these rogue actions you're taking. It's awfully easy to disregard a piece of paper. You should have to look all of your constituents in their eyes as you vote against the people. And if you do truly care to be a representative of the people rather than a power-hungry agent of the government, show it by holding yourselves accountable and vote in favor of Bills 175 and 176. Again, I reiterate, end this tyrannical overreach and let free St. Louis County adults make their own decisions over their lives. Uphold the oath to protect the Constitution and the rights of the people. We wanted to live in nanny states. We most certainly would not have chosen Missouri. End these mask mandates, restrictions on sports, building capacity limits, and pressure placed in schools to stay closed now. Vote in favor of Bills 175 and 176. We, the people, are watching the actions you are taking closer than ever, and we will not forget.
Madam Chair, continuing. Following from Jennifer Reiser. It is now beyond past time to lift all mandates and allow St. Louis County to heal from the hardships these mandates have caused. The St. Louis County-wide mandate to wear masks needs to end. Children should absolutely not be masked. Capacity limits inside and outside need to end. Bar curfews need to end. Can someone explain the reasoning behind a curfew? Are you saying that COVID-19 can affect, excuse me, are you saying that COVID-19 can't affect you at 10:59 p.m., but can enter at and after 11:01 p.m. The social distancing orders need to end. All children should be able to go to school and participate in sports if they want. Parents are more than capable to make the decision on whether or not they want their child to go to school and or participate in sports. Special needs children especially need to be having in-person learning. The CDC has been saying for months that all schools should be open. We as rational, logical, educated adult citizens can decide for ourselves appropriate actions to take to keep ourselves, our children, and our community healthy. This virus has caused the death of 0.07% of people in our county. While each person lost is a tragedy, this number simply does not justify the type of mandates in place. We do not need mandates restricting our freedoms when our hospitals are not overrun. We have flattened the curve as originally asked of us. Do the right thing for the people of St. Louis County. Lift these mandates. I'm also requesting the council vote for bills 175 and 176. The activate, and this is in quotes, real, end quote, pandemic. No state of emergency and or health order declared by the county executive and or the Department of Health, Public Health should extend for a duration beyond the 15th day following the effective day of such declarations, unless the county council by a 2/3 majority vote adopts a resolution approving the extension of such orders and setting forth the duration that the state of emergency shall remain effective. It is time to do what is right, logical, and ethical in the county of St. Louis. From Izora Liggins. For the past several years, I have come before this governing body not seeking special treatment, but seeking due process, equal protection, and fair treatment. These are fundamental rights to all citizens. County Executive Page, in a recent discrimination court matter that awarded the plaintiff a $20 million judgment, said he does not normally get involved in judicial matters, but he made an exception in that discrimination matter. Executive Page has ignored all my requests that he get involved or make a recommendation in the matter of the Bowen Company versus Izora Liggins. I'm openly being targeted and this county has a duty to protect me, yet Executive Page has gone silent. Beth Orwick, lead counselor for this county, said she was committed to a St. Louis County that nobody had, she was committed to a St. Louis County that nobody was discriminated against. That is not held true regarding the matters of Bowen versus Liggins, Liggins versus McGee, Liggins versus Harris, or Liggins versus Lemley. It appears that this county has two sets of laws and rules. I would like to request the following. Number one, Executive Page provide the name and source that sent you the fraudulent workers' compensation documents regarding Izora Liggins and ensure that I receive due process, protection, and fair treatment while resolving the cases mentioned here. Number two, the County Council take a serious look at A, posing a resolution supporting fairness and openness, B, introduce legislation improving public access, and C, encourage training of government employees to ensure compliance with existing rules and laws. As the elected officials of this county, please understand that if these fundamental rights are not provided, myself and all others similarly situated will continue to pay taxes to support county employees who infringe upon our rights and openly demoralize certain citizens. I also ask that addressing the racial divide here in St. Louis County become an issue to be placed on the weekly agenda until it is secured for all. Thank you. From Joshua Scher. On August 1st, 2020, the director of the CDC said it in quotes, "It is in the public health interest," end quote, to reopen schools for K-12 students. A recent study from UCLA and Stanford University found the chances of dying from COVID-19 are 1 in 19.1 million. To put that into perspective, the chances of dying from a car accident are 1 in 114. Last week, the CDC admitted only 6% of recorded COVID deaths actually died as a result of COVID. It is time to lift all mandates, get our kids back in school, and get us back to normal. There's nothing you can say to justify any of your mandates. Thank you. The following from Nina Hickerson. This request is for you to end the countywide mandate to wear masks, to lift capacity limits and social distancing orders. I'd also like to see high school sports resume in St. Louis County. My son is on a cross-country team at a private school in St. Louis County and is currently unable to compete with his team. He has been working so hard, running 3 to 7 miles a day, preparing for a race day. All precautions are being taken, and his team has been able to practice. And is very safe. Please let them compete. I understand that rules such as social distancing, masks, and limiting spectators could all be a part of this to start, but at least let them compete. There's no harm in letting these teenagers run against their peers in other schools. We can do so safely. I feel as though we adults should make a choice to go out, participate, wear masks or not, etc. People are already afraid, and I think the mandates make it worse. People can still get sick with masks, and if a mask mandate is in order, people may believe social distancing is not necessary. Let people that want to stay home, and let people who want to wear masks, wear them. But for many, masks are not safe, such as children wearing them and constantly touching their face. An allergy sufferer dealing with a runny nose with a mask making it worse. Or a person with anxiety who can't deal with going anywhere where a mask is required. It is unlikely for someone to catch this virus from visiting a grocery store, or likely to get it from prolonged exposure. We do not need mandates for masks. Thank you. Following from Ed Golterman. In most difficult times, music professional presented in great places for admission raised up St. Louis. It is the catalyst now. Please engage in freeing the regional national music assets, Kiel Opera House, and the Muni, and jump ahead of all the rest. Ed.
Madam Chair, continuing with the comments. The following comment is from Samantha Maggard, Paul Wesley, and Tricia Smith. This request is for you to end the countywide mandate to wear masks, to lift capacity limits, and end social distancing orders. We as rational, logical, adult citizens can decide for ourselves appropriate actions to take to keep ourselves and our community healthy. This virus has caused the death of 0.07% of people in our county. While each person lost is a tragedy, this number simply does not justify the type of mandates in place. We do not need mandates restricting our freedoms when our hospitals are not overrun and we have flattened the curve as you originally asked. Lift all mandates today and allow St. Louis County to heal from the hardships the mandates have caused. It is time to lift the restriction and let people go back to work, go back to school, and regain the lives and freedoms that were taken from them. Next comment is from Mary Ann Harder. When will Czar Page declare we are no longer in a state of emergency? Under what definition of emergency are we living that goes on interminably? Our wise governor, Mike Parson, has allowed Missourians to resume their lives. The fascist Democrats apparently want us to be miserable until at least the election. Emperor Page's order mandating face masks was overboard. On what facts did he suddenly decide we needed masks? What are the limits of this man's power? My disabled child was humiliated when she tried to go vote without a mask. I believe I was called some bad names because I advocated for her right to vote. People do not recognize valid medical exceptions to the mask requirement. There are harms of mask mandates. See the advice issued on June 5th from WHO that need to be weighed against benefits. Masks do nothing except serve as a talisman in the religion of leftism. Every civilized person knows to cover your face when you sneeze or cough. I object to a public servant, a county executive, treating me like a 3-year-old. Also, it is criminal how the COVID money was just put in King Page's pocket. There needs to be an accounting of every single penny and before November. Next comment is from Carrie Peel. I I am writing regarding youth sports in your county. Stop the phases and allow sports all ages. Baseball tournaments have gone on all over the state since May, except in St. Louis without any issues. I live in Jeffco, but my kids play sports in St. Louis. I have a senior that because his school is in St. Louis probably won't get to play soccer thanks to Paige. The sports task force has proved youth sports are safe. This is a virus. There are always viruses and always will be viruses. Stop the madness of shutdowns. Stop being an evil dictator. Kids should be in school full-time and playing sports if they so choose. Also, the mask mandate needs to stop. It's about control and compliance. If it was truly about health, you wouldn't have fast food restaurants in St. Louis. It's not your job to protect our health, it's your job to protect our freedom, which St. Louis has not done. Next comment is from Paula Coughlin. I write again this week to demand that you cease your unauthorized pressure and bullying of St. Louis County schools and allow them to open without your overreaching interference. This morning, the Board of Education for Ladue School District voted and passed a resolution giving the superintendent authority to allow in-person classes and announced a planned start date of 9/28 for grades K through 2. Rockwood is planning something similar. These superintendents are waking up to the reality that virtual learning plans do not work at all for the very young and are poor substitutes for all grades. They are listening to their community. Why don't you try that? I'll make it easy for you. Go to ipetitions.com and search St. Louis County children have a constitutional right to return safely to school. This petition has been circulating for only 1 week and, as I write this, has been signed 4,488 times by county residents. Individual comments, 789 of them from all over the county, follow the petition. My favorites are Sam Page is a tyrant and impeach Page. But most of the comments are constructive and explain why virtual learning plans do not work and provide a myriad of suggested fixes. Listen to the residents and let the schools move forward. Your handling of this pandemic has been a power grab motivated by a goal of creating chaos and fear and making you somehow important and essential in the everyday lives of county residents. Your unchecked mandates and spending with no oversight are only allowable due to Governor Parsons' state of emergency declaration. We are no longer dealing with an emergency, and the governor has heard the tremendous outcry from St. Louis County residents demanding that he lift the order and rein in your authority. For the sake of the children of St. Louis County, I hope he acts today. Next comment is from Crystal Marina. I am writing in regards to the tyrannical overreach of the county. Please remove the mask mandates. My son goes to private school and has to wear a mask all day long. The psychological damage to children, let alone adults, will be far worse by leaps and bounds than getting a virus with a 99% survival rate. The CDC has been saying that schools need to reopen, so reopen them. Please remove any phases on kids' sports. Kids need physical activity and they need to breathe without being restricted of oxygen. Please remove any business mask mandates. It is dangerous for certain professions to allow people in their stores with masks on. Please remove building capacity limits. This is hurting businesses beyond repair. Also, why are we receiving grant money for contact tracers? Where is all the money from the CARES Act being spent?
From Jeff and Julie Wilson. This request for the removal of mask mandates and capacity limits in our communities. We ask that you lift the unnecessary restrictions on our businesses, youth sports, and citizens. We ask you to stop pressuring our superintendents, sports leagues, and businesses to require masks or they cannot open, participate, or serve their customers. Our superintendents are pressured to close in-person learning and the students and families in your communities are suffering. These things we are asking because there has been no scientific evidence provided to support these mandates and restrictions. The 2 weeks to flatten the curve has long passed and the virus is showing to have little to no spread from children or asymptomatic individuals from reputable sources such as the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics. It is far past the time for this overreach to end. If individuals who have health risks want to wear masks in public, then they have that right. But those of us who do not should not be forced to do so. Nor should we be fined, shunned, or outcast because of our decision. We are asking for the passing of Bills 175 and 176. These checks and balances need to be in place to keep from one person making decisions without any accountability to others who represent our communities. Council, we ask that these two bills be a priority and they be passed. This is not just for the existing officials, but the future as well, regardless of which political side one may fall. It's time for our county to be opened up fully and masks mandates be removed. Our economy, small businesses, and children are catching the brunt of these restrictions and are paying dearly. Dr. Page, we implore you to lift these restrictions immediately. Other surrounding counties are moving on with very little to no negative impacts, and St. Louis County should too. Thank you for your time. From Patricia Cornell, please do whatever will work to get the correct place for the COVID money now in the hands of Sam Page. I have emailed Senator Josh Hawley suggesting a good lawyer to correct the channeling of this money. Now, not in several years. I am serving vulnerable people in their homes so as to avoid moving to a nursing home. So I am unable to attend your meetings. I sincerely appreciate sharing my thoughts with you all. From Johanna Bodine. You can clearly see that St. Louis County has done the necessary to flatten the curve. Yes, there are measures not met entirely, but it is clear that the mandates and emergency orders set forth in March have been effective in achieving the goal. My husband and I are currently living separately in different counties in Missouri, so we are able to maintain our home near employment and allow our children their right to a free and appropriate education. We have the ability to do this, but it should not be necessary. Your mandates are meaningless. Please lift all mandates. No mask mandates. No more phases for sports. Let all children participate in volunteer sports if they want. No building capacity limits. Let places of businesses go back to full capacity. No more bullying school superintendents. Announce what CDC has been saying for months, that all schools should be open. Special needs children especially need to be having in-person learning. Bring back in-person county council meetings. We, the people, deserve to be able to sit in on our elected officials. Explain the proposed amendment to the St. Louis County Charter on the election ballot of November 2020 as indicated, stating the proposed amendment to Article 2 will create and add a new section, Section 2.300, titled Council Attorney, and further stating the proposed amendment shall create the positions of 1 Assistant Council Attorney and 1 Administrative Clerical Staff Member, OC10. Please vote for Bills 175 and 176. See photo below. Please provide transparency and oversight for all money St. Louis County received from the CARES Act, what has been requested and not yet fulfilled. From Deb Matush. In this age of arrogance and non-transparency, it is appalling you need to hire an attorney with an assistant with St. Louis County monies while businesses in St. Louis County are dying on the vine. Why do you need legal representation? If you do, pay for it yourself like the rest of us, not with our money. Unless you have the mentality of Marie Antoinette, you get what you want on the people's monies, but let them eat cake. Let me ask you these questions. Do you have a job? Can you pay your rent or mortgage? Can you pay your utilities? Can you buy your food without having to negotiate putting something back on the shelf? Do you have a lease on a business space but are not allowed to bring in business and still have to pay your lease and other associated costs? Do you feel powerful by making business owners who do decide to try to open, police their customers, and refuse service if a person doesn't or can't wear a mask when the very thing the proprietor needs is that person to spend their money in their business. But what you can do is open a new unused morgue to accommodate the big death numbers that never happen. Close businesses and people's livelihoods while you still have a place to work. We flattened the curve months ago. You changed the rules, Sam. Renovate the jail. Is that why you let the inmates out? Close schools twice and try to make a negative example of those that make the conscious choice to open. Shame on you. Have no regard for children with special needs and IEPs. There's a reason a child needs an IEP. You get to answer for that. Keep fear alive and well for political reasons and hire professional tattlers and make businesses police customers to make you feel powerful. You get to explain that. Force masks on all, including those with health issues, without regard for those with health issues. Ignore mental health, suicide hotline numbers, and increase in domestic violence. Make sure you have no accountability for CARES Act monies. It is more fun to dupe the people that way. Is it more fun to dupe the people that way? Spend $2 million on an offensive with Washington University by bribing people with a $50 gift card if they get tested? Really? Numbers must not be what you had hoped for, Sam. And that's the end of 400 words. And from Christy Bond. This request is for you to end the countywide mandate to wear masks, to lift capacity limits, and end social distancing orders. We as rational, logical adult citizens can decide for ourselves appropriate actions to take to keep ourselves and our community healthy. This virus has caused the death of 0.07% of people in our county. While each person lost is a tragedy, this number simply does not justify the type of mandates in place. Meantime, our kids are suffering. So many are having mental and emotional issues such as depression because of lack of interaction with humans. Our society is becoming inhumane. We no longer see smiles. We have camaraderie because everyone complains together about the ridiculous restrictions in light of the rarity of complication with this virus. We do not need mandates restricting our freedoms when our hospitals are not overrun and we have flattened the curve as you originally asked. Lift all mandates today and allow St. Louis County to heal from the hardships the mandates have caused. Businesses are suffering. Fear is ruling families. People are making unwise decisions based on fear. This is not healthy or even reasonable considering the incredible recovery rate of this sickness. Not to mention, our bodies are designed to need others' germs to gain a stronger immune system. This is no historical precedent, even with more serious disease outbreaks. We ask you to act in reasonableness. Let our kids play sports and let the parents be there to watch. I can't even imagine what is happening with little to no parent involvement in some situations. Let schools be schools. Let teachers teach. Let us all go to church. That benefits the entire community.
From Derek Watson. On August 19th, the St. Louis Sports Medicine COVID-19 Task Force, a collaboration of sports medicine, pediatrics, infectious disease professionals representing all major health systems in the St. Louis metro area, delivered an 18-page, in quote, Youth Return to Sports Recommendations, end quote, report to you. The document provided an organized, clear, and safe approach for the return of youth and high school sports for our region. The recommendation to the task force on August 19th was the immediate return to phase 3, with the expectation that this council would adopt this recommendation to move to phase 3 no later than August 24th. Yet here we are 2 weeks later with no change. Can you please share any data and sources that you are using to completely ignore the healthcare specialists and professionals from BJC, SSM, and Mercy in the task force? We've seen the data broken down by age group. The athletes aged 6 to 15 are not creating any meaningful spike in COVID cases. County youth sports organizations are beginning to fold, in parentheses, Fenton. There are some on the verge, in parentheses, Baldwin. So why must you continue to punish the children of the county, not just now, but for the foreseeable future? How is it that our children are returning to the classroom, which have far less controls in place, however they cannot return to a soccer field? In closing, Mr. Page, I encourage you to glance up from your phone for just one moment, consider the tens of thousands of children and young adults that by your inaction are continuing to suffer every single day. I implore you and the council to follow the recommendations provided by the task force to get our kids back into sports again. Thank you. From Chris Davis. My name is Chris Davis, Government Affairs Director of Site Improvement Association, 2071 Exchange Drive, St. Charles, Missouri, representing over 120 construction contractors in the St. Louis region. Enthusiastically support Bill number 198, amending the Cone of Silence. Approximately 1 year ago, upon its initial introduction, SITE respectfully requested reasonable changes to the Cone of Silence ordinance based on standard construction industry bidding practices at MoDOT and other large public works owners. Many of the issues raised by SITE then are now reflected in the legislation presented today in Bill number 198. We are thankful that those issues have been recognized and are being rectified. Please vote yes on Bill number 198. Regards, Chris J. Davis. From Tom Sullivan. Listening to the COVID Oversight Committee meetings is usually confusing, but this morning's meeting topped them all. No one knows for sure what's going on, or who is doing what, or when things are going to get done, or by whom. What a great idea it was to allow Sam Page to have sole control over how the $173.5 million in federal COVID grant would be spent. As a Post-Dispatch editorial asked, what could possibly go wrong? Now we are finding out just about everything. Some other things to mention. Council needs to look into what all is going on with the animal shelter. Same as the jail, things have festered for years, and no one seems to be able to solve the problems. Many still believe the county wants to privatize the shelter, and that will only make things worse. On July 15th, 2019, at a town hall meeting in North County attended by County Executive Sam Page, there were a lot of concerns expressed about nothing being done at the old Jamestown Mall. There is still nothing being done. Concerns were also expressed at that meeting about a lack of grocery stores. Rodney Krim said that they were working on it. What's going on with that? The city of St. Louis recently sold some of its bonds for the expanded convention center. At the same time, it was revealed that St. Louis is the fastest shrinking city in the country. The two are definitely connected. Foolishly spending hundreds of millions of dollars on stadiums and convention centers by a city unable to even protect its citizens is a really good way to lose population. St. Louis County has already started down the same path. Thank you for listening to my comments. The following from Chris Struckoff. We've had rioting in St. Louis County and St. Louis City over the last 3 or 4 months. I did not hear County Executive Sam Page acknowledge that there was rioting in St. Louis as he spoke at the beginning of the St. Louis County Council meeting. I believe he referred to them as protests. His reaction to the violent protests was to say he was going to change the name of some streets and remove some statues that were offensive to some. He also said he was going to have a study done of St. Louis County Police for needed improvement. There was no criticism of the violent protesters. Violence was not even acknowledged. He never mentioned the danger that they put our county in by not social distancing. He did not mention the violent protesters' destruction of businesses, government, and private property, places of work, places of worship, injury or death to victims of their violence. It appeared he did not think the actions of these violent protesters was important or that the consequences for their actions were needed. Have you heard of the planned siege of Washington, D.C. to start 50 days before the November election? This information was on the news a few days ago. Last night there was a program on about this planned siege. A radical organization has called for all radical organizations to come to Washington, D.C. and participate. Their purpose is to attack those they consider fascists. Antifa was mentioned quite a bit. Antifa consists of anti-fascist militant groups in the United States that aim to achieve their objectives through the use of both nonviolent and violent direct action rather than through policy reform. Antifa is direct domestic terrorism. They're tribal but organized. Their leadership keeps changing every 24 hours, making it hard to pin down the leadership. Antifa has learned a lot through the summer about federal tactics. They have been practicing in Portland. They may try to take over the White House. When they are not successful, they will go on to the next best thing, and so forth. That is their aim, destruction and ultimately overthrowing our government. In conclusion, let me tell you that we citizens will not stand for our elected officials shirking their duties, not doing what they should do to protect our country and its citizens. Do not try to pacify these radicals or play politics. Put our country first. God bless America. From Kate Stratton. It's nice to see talks starting at Rockwood School District to begin reopening the schools, but it's ridiculous that no one is talking about the children with special needs starting school. Why are businesses not fully open? Why are you still trying to destroy St. Louis County? Either masks work or they don't. Which is it? Give people the choice to wear them or not and open up St. Louis County fully. How much money is still being wasted on bribing people to test for the virus to keep numbers look like they're still up? Oh yeah, $2.2 million. Studies are showing if you don't have symptoms, don't test. When is the council going to face the people that you were supposed to be working for? Is it about coronavirus or isn't it? You don't want to be accountable and face the county residents because their county is being destroyed before the election. Can't wait until November the 3rd.
The following comment is signed by 103 Justice Services employees. The members of Department of Justice Services have recently viewed the completely fabricated statements presented to the County Council. There have been no discussions of a blue flu, and we are deeply offended by the notion that the jail is in complete chaos. We have continued to perform our job to the best of our ability throughout this tumultuous time, much of which has been created by former Director Bonasco and his clique. While change is necessary, we as a department were not willing to sacrifice our dignity and pride to an individual who practiced the same behavior he claimed to condemn. Acts of favoritism, bullying, shaming, and personal attacks were blatant and were allowed to go unchecked. Reporting of this behavior fell on deaf ears and were met with instant retaliation. While Mr. Bonasco has gone, we are now dealing with his faction that are still attempting to tear this department apart. We need to focus on communication and cooperation. Through all the criticism being published in the press and in the council meeting, there have been no solution presented. Only grandstanding and inflammatory remarks that are completely unfounded and unsubstantiated. More importantly, they are being presented by individuals who have not communicated with anyone other than those who support their personal agendas. Our current administration has dealt with years of staffing issues, budget issues, cultural change, and of course the problems of any major jail in the country. When major change was needed, they recognized and embraced it, but when it began to jeopardize the safety and the integrity of the facility, they banded together to lead us through it. With a renewed sense of purpose and with an obvious sense of urgency, they have begun the rebuilding process, already emphasizing communication among staff and outside influences to help lead this facility to a safer, secure, and certain future. We as a department have recognized that change is necessary and will embrace all those changes that benefit the facility. After enduring the troubles of the last few months, we are now, more than ever, committed to that change. We, along with the help and cooperation of all interested parties, can lead us into a better future, not only for the individuals we are charged with caring for, but for staff and the community. Madam Chair, that is all of the written comments.
Thank you, Chris, Lynn, and Diane. We will proceed with introduction of bills.
Bill number 205, introduced by Councilmember Clancy, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to accept a grant of up to $333,718 from the Missouri Department of Social Services, Division of Youth Services, subject to a local match requirement, appropriating the same for support of the Family Court's Juvenile Court Diversion Program, and authorizing the Director of Operations of the Family Court to execute necessary documents. Bill number 206, introduced by Councilmember Clancy, an ordinance amending Chapter 803, Title 8, St. Louis County Revised Ordinances 1974 as amended, amusements, by repealing and reenacting Sections 803.010 and 803.020 pertaining to license taxes imposed upon certain amusement facilities, shows, and professional performances. Bill number 207, introduced by Councilmember Clancy, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to accept a grant of up to $71,150 from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, appropriating the same for support of the Department of Public Health's Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity ELC CARES project, and authorizing the acting director of the Department of Health to execute necessary documents. Bill number 208, introduced by Councilmember Harder, an ordinance amending Title 12, St. Louis County Revised Ordinances 1974 as amended, Traffic Code, by enacting and adding one provision to Schedule 9. Madam Chair, that is all the bills.
Thank you. We will move on to perfection.
Bill number 20, introduced by Councilmember Harder.
Please hold Bill number 20.
Bill number 20 is held.
Bill number 32, introduced by Councilmember Tracus.
Please hold Bill number 32.
Bill number 32 is held.
Bill number 175, introduced by Councilmembers FITCH and Harder.
I move to hold Bill 175.
Bill 175 is held.
Bill number 176, introduced by Councilmembers FITCH and Harder.
I move to hold Bill 176.
Bill 176 is held.
Bill number 196, introduced by Councilmember Days.
I move to perfect Bill number 196.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 196 is perfected.
Bill number 197, introduced by Councilmember Days.
I move to perfect Bill number 197.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 197 is perfected.
Bill number 198, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
We will hold this bill. There will be a hearing on this bill at the end of the month. So with that, I will hold Bill number 198.
Bill number 199, introduced by Councilmember Tracus.
Move to perfect Bill number 199.
Second, Harder.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Bill number 199 is perfected.
Bill number 200, introduced by Councilmember Harder.
I move to perfect Bill number 200.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 200 is perfected. And there appears to be a little bit of a delay in Councilman Tracus's audio, so just wanted to note that.
Bill number 201, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
I move to perfect Bill number 201.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Bill number 201 is perfected.
Bill number 202, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
I move to perfect Bill number 202.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 202 is perfected.
Bill number 203, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
I move to perfect Bill number 203.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Bill number 203 is perfected.
Bill number 204, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
I move to perfect Bill number 204.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 204 is perfected. Final passage.
Bill number 320, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
I move to hold Bill number 320. Bill number 320 is held.
Substitute Bill number 2 for Bill number 385, introduced by Councilmember Dunaway.
I move to hold substitute Bill number 2 for Bill number 385.
Substitute Bill number 2 for Bill number 385 is held.
Bill number 14, introduced by Councilmembers Tracus, Days, Dunaway, Fitch, Walton Gray, Clancy, and Harder.
Move to hold Bill number 14, please.
Bill number 14 is held.
Bill number 76, introduced by Councilmembers Dunaway and Harder.
I move to hold Bill number 76.
Bill number 76 is held.
Bill number 191, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
I move for final passage of Bill number 191.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Days,
Aye.
Councilmember Dunaway,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitch,
Aye.
Councilmember Gray,
Aye.
Councilmember Clancy,
Aye.
Councilmember Tracus,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Madam Chair, on Bill number 191, there are 7 ayes.
Bill number 191 is finally passed.
Substitute Bill number 1 for Bill number 192, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
I move for final passage of substitute Bill number 1 for Bill number 192.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Days,
Aye.
Councilmember Dunaway,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitch,
Aye.
Councilmember Gray,
Aye.
Councilmember Clancy,
Aye.
Councilmember Tracus,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Madam Chair, on substitute Bill number 1 for Bill number 192, there are 7 ayes.
Substitute Bill number 1 for Bill number 192 is finally passed.
Bill number 193, introduced by Councilmember Days.
I move for final passage of Bill number 193.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Days,
Aye.
Councilmember Dunaway,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitch,
Aye.
Councilmember Gray,
Aye.
Councilmember Clancy,
Aye.
Councilmember Tracus,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Madam Chair, on Bill number 193, there are 7 ayes.
Bill number 193 is finally passed.
Bill number 194, introduced by Councilmember Tracus for Councilmember Harder.
I move for final passage of Bill number 194.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Days,
Aye.
Councilmember Dunaway,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitch,
Aye.
Councilmember Gray,
Aye.
Councilmember Clancy,
Aye.
Councilmember Tracus,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Madam Chair, on Bill number 194, there are 7 ayes.
Bill number 194 is finally passed.
Bill number 195, introduced by Councilmember Tracus for Councilmember Harder.
I move for final passage of Bill number 195.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Days,
Aye.
Councilmember Dunaway,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitch,
Aye.
Councilmember Gray,
Aye.
Councilmember Clancy,
Aye.
Councilmember Tracus,
Aye.
and Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Madam Chair, on Bill number 195, there are 7 ayes.
Bill number 195 is finally passed.
Moving on to resolutions, Madam Chair, we have 2 this evening. Resolution number 1, introduced by Councilmember Clancy.
Please read the resolution.
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 1, introduced by Councilmember Clancy. Whereas in 1979, court-appointed special advocate, CASA, programs were a new concept, as the first program to provide advocacy services to abused and neglected children in foster care custody proceedings had been established in Seattle, Washington, just 3 years earlier. And whereas that same year, the National Council of Jewish Women received a 2-year, $300,000 grant to train CASA volunteers and choose 3 affiliated organizations to develop CASA programs. And whereas the National Council of Jewish Women, St. Louis, NCJW St. Louis, was one of the organizations chosen and received funding to develop a CASA program in the St. Louis area. And whereas 2 NCJW St. Louis volunteers, Judy Milton and Judy Putzel, were charged with creating the St. Louis CASA program and spent countless nights and weekends developing an advocacy program for children in foster care custody proceedings. And whereas the Judys found support from key stakeholders, including the St. Louis County Juvenile Judges, Chief Juvenile Officer Ken Hensick, and St. Louis County, which provided an office for CASA. And whereas the Judys hired a part-time social worker, and with input and support from court officials and attorneys who served as guardians ad litem, they developed a volunteer recruitment and training program. And whereas in June 1980, the Honorable William M. Corrigan administered the oath of office to the first group of 15 St. Louis CASA women volunteers. And whereas in 1985, St. Louis County entered into a contract with NCJW St. Louis to fund CASA, and eventually CASA of St. Louis County formed an independent nonprofit organization supported by the county and donors. And in 2011, CASA of St. Louis County merged with the City of St. Louis's CASA program, Voices for Children, and the 2 organizations formed CASA of St. Louis. And whereas during the last several decades, CASA has worked to fulfill their mission of engaging highly trained volunteers to provide court and community-based advocacy for children in the foster care system. And whereas through this work, CASA is hopeful the St. Louis community will be a place where our most vulnerable children have the tools needed to develop the resilience necessary to survive and thrive in and beyond foster care. And whereas, as CASA of St. Louis celebrates its 40th anniversary in 2020, it has more than 225 volunteers who serve 550 children involved in foster care custody proceedings in St. Louis County and the City of St. Louis, has won numerous awards, and has amassed an impressive track record of helping children develop greater resiliency, achieve or maintain a permanent home placement more quickly and more often, and avoid contact with the criminal justice system as adults. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Louis County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the County Council congratulates CASA of St. Louis on the occasion of the organization's 40th anniversary and expresses its deepest gratitude for 4 decades of achieving positive outcomes for at-risk children in St. Louis County and the City of St. Louis. Section 2, the Acting Administrative Director shall send certified copies of this resolution to Ms. Jennifer Howard, Chief Executive Officer of CASA of St. Louis, and Ms. Ellen Alper, Chief Executive Officer of National Council of Jewish Women, St. Louis.
Thank you, Diane. I wish there wasn't a need for organizations like CASA, but they do a really important work. And so long as there is a need for this work in this community, I wish CASA much success and continued impact. And not only is this a tribute to the important work that CASA does, I think it is also an important reminder of the importance of nonprofits in our community, both in starting programs, but also ultimately helping to work for systems change for kids and families. So with that, I move for adoption of resolution number 1.
Second, Days.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Days.
Aye.
Councilmember Dunaway.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitch.
Aye.
Councilmember Gray.
Aye.
Councilmember Clancy.
Aye.
Councilmember Tracus.
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Madam Chair, on resolution number 1, there are 7 ayes.
Resolution number 1 is adopted.
Our second resolution this evening is introduced by Councilmember Fitch.
Please read the resolution.
Yes, sir. Resolution number 2, introduced by Councilmember Fitch. Whereas Jack Martirelli was born on March 23, 1942, and whereas Jack grew up to marry Margaret, also known as Madge, and together they lovingly raised 3 children. And whereas Jack proudly and honorably served his country as a member of the United States Marine Corps. And whereas Jack was a successful entrepreneur as owner of Martirelli Consulting Services, served as an executive board member for multiple labor organizations, and was a former president and business manager of Operating Engineers Local 513. And whereas as successful as Jack was professionally, his greatest contributions to his community were as a philanthropist and community volunteer. And whereas Jack served his community as president of the St. Louis Port Council, board member of Paralyzed Veterans of America, board member of Backstoppers, and perhaps most notably as one of the founders of the extremely successful annual Gun and Hoses event, which raises funds to support Backstoppers' mission to provide financial assistance to the families of first responders who suffer a catastrophic injury performing their duty. And whereas Jack, a member of St. Cletus Catholic Church, was above all else a man of faith greatly devoted to his family. And whereas Jack passed away at the age of 78 on August 27, 2020, preceded in death by his parents Dominic Martirelli and Patricia Curtis. And whereas it is appropriate for the Council and all St. Louis Countyans to pause to honor a man so devoted to the service of others. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Louis County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the County Council offers its deepest condolences to Jack's wife, his children Dennis, Gina, and Angela, his grandchildren, his siblings, his extended family, and his many friends. Section 2, the Acting Administrative Director shall send a certified copy of this resolution to Mrs. Martirelli as a permanent token of the Council's condolences and appreciation of a life well lived.
Thank you, Diane. A huge loss for our entire community. I move for the adoption of resolution number 2.
Second, Tracus.
Roll call.
Councilmember Days.
Aye.
Councilmember Dunaway.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitch.
Aye.
Councilmember Gray.
Aye.
Councilmember Clancy.
Aye.
Councilmember Tracus,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Chair, on resolution number 2, there are 7 ayes.
Resolution number 2 is adopted. Moving on to unfinished business. Oh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 1.
Hold on. Oh, I just lost my light in my office. Hold on the order of business, and that will be the order.
Item number 2.
The appointment be approved as recommended. Is there a second?
Second, Tracus.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. The appointment has been approved.
And can I make sure that was Councilwoman Days?
Days.
Thank you.
D-A-Y-S. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, 4th District.
The new liquor license be approved as requested.
Second, Days.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 4.
This first came on our agenda last week. I gave it another week because I know that there were some questions that council members wanted to have the opportunity to inquire with our county counselor's office about. So here we are now. The amendment to the contract be approved as requested.
Madam Chair, could we have a discussion over this?
Sure, go ahead, Councilman Harder.
A couple have come up in the last week or so about extending this contract. It kind of looks like a almost a blank check to do whatever to spend on this, and I guess I'm not very happy with that. Also, it's not very specific on how much is going to be spent on this defense. And then the third thing is, why don't we have someone within our council or within our county legal department that can defend the county properly, that we have to go outside for this defense? So 3 questions there that haven't been able to be answered to my satisfaction. Maybe others have similar questions.
Councilman Fitch.
Thank you, Chairwoman. This is the request by the County Counselor's Office for those out there that don't have an agenda to amend the contract with Lewis Rice. And this one in particular is to defend the county and the county executive for the alleged discrimination and retaliation by Troy Doyle, the lieutenant colonel from the police department. I have the same concerns as Councilman Harder. It is a blank check. We have not been told any estimation of what the cost would be. And quite honestly, when we pass these things and approve these things, they're for the sole purpose of never bringing it back to the public light again. And in this particular case, where Lieutenant Colonel Troyles made some serious allegations, at least publicly, against, in particular, the county executive, there's every incentive for the county counselor's office to keep this as quiet as possible. So I think it would behoove us to ask the county counselor's office to give us a estimation on price, cost for this, and if they need to exceed that, to come back to the council to ask us to exceed that. So that's my statement on this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Tracus.
Thank you. I share completely both Councilman Fitch's and Councilman Harder's concern. They raise legitimate questions. That said, the simple fact of the matter is the county cannot afford another multi-million-dollar verdict or settlement based on allegations of discrimination. It needs, in fact, it demands competent and assertive counsel to mount vigorous defense of these allegations. And rightly, wrongly, sadly or not, the county counselor's office is ill-equipped to do that. And so, as difficult as it is, we have a hard choice in front of us, because the last thing the county needs, as I said, is another multi-million-dollar verdict or settlement based on these types of allegations. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I completely agree with Councilman Tracus's comments on this. Did I see a hand from you, Councilwoman Gray?
Yes, I was one of the council people who had a concern last week and needed more time. I have to agree with Councilman Tracus about this matter, and actually everyone who spoke prior to that. But like he said, with those concerns, we do need to defend this lawsuit.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Harder.
I guess my other concern here is we seem to send a lot of business to Lewis Rice. I'm sure there's other firms out there that could competitively bid on this, as well as being competent in defending the county. That's something else I'd like to see, if there's more input we can get to find out if there's maybe a different person, but we've sent millions of dollars, it seems like, to Lewis Rice in the last couple of years, and I would think that there's other law firms out there that could do just as well.
I have to agree with that as well.
Madam Chair.
That was
Councilwoman, I'm sorry, are you
that
still?
Was something else that I mentioned to the counselor earlier.
Another issue could come up is that why don't we ask for a cap and at least give some control over the spending, and that they would have to come back to us to extend that cap, whatever that cap may be.
Madam Chair, I also agree with Councilman Harder's comment regarding Lewis Rice. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councilwoman Days.
Yes, and I don't want to pile on here, but I have been consistent in my views that we go to outside counsel for seemingly everything. We have a bevy of lawyers that we are paying. We have consistently used the same firm. I don't see RFPs going out for legal services, if you will. The thought that we don't have competent, assertive people in that office, to me, would be offensive. That we have hired these people, we have hired these lawyers, they are our lawyers working for St. Louis County, and yet they can't seem to gather enough to defend these kind of situations. And it is not just this situation. There have been many others that we have sought outside counsel. So I'm going to be consistent in my rejecting this, and I will be voting no.
Beth, would you like the opportunity to respond? I know that you've made yourself available and have had extensive conversations with many of us on an individual basis, but for the purposes of the public that is tuning into this conversation, I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond to the questions and concerns that have been raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. And as with any time that I ask for funding for outside counsel and for authority to hire outside counsel from the county council, I always make myself available to speak with the different council members, and I thank those that have taken me up on that opportunity to do so. All of these things that were brought up today, I have addressed with the various council members, but I will first say that, and I've said this before at a meeting before, our office is small compared to other county council offices, or even the city councilor's office in St. Louis City compared to the size of our population. In addition, our office is very involved with the COVID-19 response and the CARES response. Yes, we do have outside counsel with that, but there is still a very heavy lift by the people who are in our office. I assure you that the attorneys working in my office are not just sitting around doing nothing. Many of them work 50 to 70 or even 80 hours a week, believe it or not, to keep up with the load that we have in St. Louis County for our legal needs. Litigation like this comes up, and it's important to recognize that sometimes it is important to seek outside counsel. Lewis Rice in this case is uniquely situated in that they have worked with my office on a prior litigation matter. They're familiar with the county, they're familiar with the police department and the police board, and they know how it works. So to get them up to speed on that will actually be a savings to the county when they are representing the county. In addition, they work closely with my office, and they'll be working with an attorney in my office and myself in this case in order to help with costs. They've given us a competitive competitive rate in this case as well. In addition, I know that in the past, Lewis Rice, they do not nickel and dime the county. They see, and I know this because I've talked to them about this, as very much a public service, and they do give us a good rate, and they don't charge us for every bit of work that they do. They do indeed cut their bills at a savings of thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to St. Louis County. With regards to litigation, something that's important to understand with regard to litigation is you don't know what the next step is going to be. So if the council would put a cap on the litigation, it would be difficult if, for example, we were heading into a crucial stage of litigation and the money ran out. That would put us, it's just not possible in a lot of situations to go to the council and say we need to have more money expended onto this. That is why I don't ask for a cap. I've done this before in other litigation. It's worked out well. And I assure the council that I do put caps in the contracts. So when the contract comes from my office, we do monitor the spending with that contract, and then we do amended contracts if we need more money. I am very conservative with the way we spend that money and making sure that we are good for the citizens of St. Louis County and people who live in St. Louis County. To the allegation that we would, there is the allegation that we've spent millions with the law firm of Lewis Rice. I do not believe that to be the case, and I want to make that clear. I also would like to say that if we were trying to keep something quiet inside my office, we would not have come to the council and ask for this outside counsel. If we were trying to keep it quiet, we wouldn't be here. So I take issue with that, and I assure that's not was what is happening in this situation. That said, Madam Chair, thank you for giving me this opportunity to express my thoughts on this. Again, I'm always happy to discuss with any of the council members what's happening with our request for any type of funding for litigation and the authority to hire outside counsel. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam
Beth.
Chair, let me just say one other thing
Councilwoman
too, and I do appreciate that. It was not necessary for me to talk to Beth on this because I already knew what I was going to do. But I want to also say that as while this county continues to be open for everyone, it's diverse, you will never have, as long as you continue to keep and serve the same people that we do, you will never have a predominantly African-American law firm to come into this county and do anything, because we're going to continue to utilize the same people over and over. Yes, Lewis Rice may have a few Black attorneys there. They may do that, and I'm sure they do. But the opportunity for others to learn the county, the opportunity for others to figure out how this works will never happen as long as we continue down this road. So I do appreciate that, Beth. I do appreciate you reaching out to me. But I'm just, that's it. Thank you.
You know, and I this isn't a matter that I take lightly. I don't think any of us are taking this lightly, even if we might come down on different sides of opinion on the matter moving forward. But you know, some of the concerns and questions that have been raised, I think, are important. However, I don't know how much it makes sense to actually resolve those issues as part of this specific matter, given the urgency of some of this matter. But perhaps our bigger picture questions down the road for some policies that the council might wish to take on and consider. Especially pertaining to RFPs for legal counsel. I don't believe that we have a lot of policies that that specify that we need to use RFPs for legal counsel, and perhaps that's for good reason, but that might be something for the council to take a look at if that's something that you all are interested in changing moving forward. So that's just one example that comes to mind. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Tracus.
Thank you. Returning to basically Councilwoman Day's point, Councilman Harder's point regarding this idea of caps or ceilings. With all due respect to the county council, or I fail to see the impediment placed by a ceiling or a cap that, when reached or when approaching, would inhibit the counselor's office from returning to this body, explaining why additional latitude or sums or funds need to be made available. And that way it gives the council some bit of transparency, some bit of access to information and oversight with regard to the amount of legal fees expended. As I understand this matter, it is still at the administrative stage. It's not as if you're in a full-on court proceeding yet. So I would suggest that the matter be held for a week, let the county councilor consider the idea of somehow addressing the idea of a cap or limitation on how much we authorize right now. And then let's see if it doesn't garner more support and vote for it next week. I don't see how a week would matter one way or the other at this particular stage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone have any comments in response to Councilman Tracus's proposal to wait for a week and explore the idea of putting a cap?
Madam Chair,
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with Councilman Tracus on a cap. I think without a cap, this will be the last discussion that we have about this if it passes. And by having a cap, it forces the conversation to come back to this body in the future. It might be a month, might be 6 months from now. There'll be another discussion. If we don't do that, we will never see this again, and our money will be gone as well. So I would at least like to see that and a hold on this at least another week.
I think that's a reasonable compromise. Did I just see a hand from Councilman Fitch?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I would also agree with Councilman Tracus, and this is exactly what I asked of Ms. Orwick when we had our telephone conversation, is that it's a very easy way just to say we never have to deal with this again. And how many times have you come back to us and asked for additional funds for the Northwest Plaza situation, and we've never turned you down? So I don't see this as any different than that particular situation. Because the counselor's office has gotten away with that in the past doesn't mean it'll always be that way in the future. And I also don't see a sense of urgency in this particular case because there's been no lawsuit filed. As far as I know, nothing like that's been filed. It's all been administrative with the EEOC office. So that's how I see it. So thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. I'm hearing that there appears to be some, I guess, I don't know if I can fully call it a consensus, but there appears to be good interest in some sort of a compromise in which we at least take the week to explore the pros and cons with putting a cap on this request. So with that, I am willing to hold it. I do think that this matter does have some urgency, though, as I've heard the county councilor relay to us. And so I think as soon as we can get a team in place to handle this matter to best represent the interests of St. Louis County taxpayers, the better. So I would ask that we all take the time that we need this week to focus on getting this to a resolution by next week's meeting. So with that, yes, go ahead.
There's a motion on the table.
Oh, you're right. And there was not a second for that motion. So I guess what I would need to do is retract that motion.
Withdraw. Yes.
Okay. I'll withdraw my motion to approve the amendment to the contract as requested based on the conversation that ensued afterwards, and update that to say that I will hold this on the order of business, and that will be the order.
Okay.
All right.
Item number 5.
We will hold this appointment, and that will be the order.
Item number 6.
Same motion for item number 6, hold, and that will be the order.
Moving on to new business this evening, Madam Chair, we have one prepared order. That's in the matter of the appointment of Dr. Holland, so I would assume that we will just hold that order.
Yes.
Okay. Will do.
Any further dialogue or announcements from the council before we adjourn for tonight?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Harder.
Yes, a couple weeks ago, we talked about returning to the council chambers, and at that time, we were going to have a committee of the whole to talk about the logistics of that happening, and I don't remember seeing any booking or scheduling of that committee of the whole to talk about how we would get back in person, which is what the residents of the community want. So I would like to encourage you to come up with a schedule for that in the next week or so.
Councilman Harder, you may recall that as a result of that conversation, well, when we had that conversation, I, as well as several other council members, noted that there's also a legal component to this discussion. And as such, I requested a legal opinion from the county counselor's office pertaining to some of the recommendations made by the Department of Public Health, and also more so to make some recommendations so that we can be in a place where we can safely admit the public, while also keeping in mind some unique modifications we might need to make in regards to limiting the number of public in attendance. Again, public health and safety is the priority here, and I am aware that there are differing opinions in the community, because I've heard them every week at council, about the seriousness of this pandemic. And you know, I, as the chairwoman, continue to be very concerned about the seriousness of this pandemic, and am still prioritizing public health and safety, because we need to make sure that the council chambers and the offices are safe for everybody. So with that, I did request a formal opinion from our county counselor's office, and they are still working on that. Until we get that opinion, I believe it would be premature to go ahead and schedule a committee of the whole. But as soon as I get that opinion, which I expect it imminently, we will go ahead and get that committee of the whole meeting scheduled. I am still committed to that.
Okay, thank you, and we'll look for that opinion soon.
Anything else? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
And so move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
You as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening.